Hi, this video is about the Tea Party, Boston Tea Party, and then also the Lexington and Concord, the beginning of the Revolutionary War. So the Boston Tea Party was largely a reaction to the British had placed this tax on tea, but they also, another thing that really angered the colonists was that they gave an exemption on this tax to the British East India Company. And so this angered a lot of the colonists, especially in the port cities such as Boston. And so the colonists, of course, famously dumped the tea into Boston Harbor. And in the wake of this, after this occurred, the British, instead of kind of backing off, passed the Coercive Acts and the Boston Port Act. And so this led to a lot of increase in British troops. And essentially it was an occupied city. And so the people who still view themselves as British subjects are increasingly, there's more and more people that are trying to almost move away from that. And there are some thoughts of independence, although even by the Revolutionary War beginning, it's still only about a third of the colonists, these are rough statistics, but about a third are in favor of independence, about a third are, kind of in the middle, and then a third are pretty strong loyalists. So in 1775, though, as the things were kind of boiling over in Boston, some of the patriots and the people that were, resisting British rule had this weapons cache in Concord, and the British got word of this, and so they sent the troops to go to Concord. And this is the famous point, the ride of Paul Revere. Now, Paul Revere rides from Boston. He's on his way to Concord, and also on the way to Concord is the town Lexington, and he's going to warn the people there. And so he rides also with Samuel Dawes, that they meet in Lexington, and they are warning the people there. And so even though Paul Revere gets a lot of the credit historically, he actually got captured outside of Lexington. And so before he got captured, though, Revere, Samuel Dawes, they came across this guy, Samuel Prescott, who was actually living in Concord but came to Lexington to visit his fiancée. And he just kind of runs into them, essentially, to Revere and Dawes. And he then continues back on the way to Concord to warn the people there. So Paul Revere actually got captured, and Dawes on the way fell off his horse and sort of limped back home. So it was actually Dr. Samuel Prescott who delivered the word to Concord of what was occurring, and the British were coming. And so at Lexington there was a skirmish, the shot heard around the world, and nobody is really certain whether it was the British or the militiamen, Massachusetts militiamen who had fired, but in the end 8 of the patriots were killed. And so the rest, rode back to Concord, and the fighting there, and the British ultimately kind of had to retreat back to Boston. And those 2 battles, Lexington and Concord, are essentially the beginning of the Revolutionary War. There were efforts by some people to try to avert this major war that would come, but the foundation for the war had begun in 1775. And then, of course, the following year would be the Declaration of Independence.